Welcome to the Sermon Shot Suite. Today's tour is of Sermon Shots itself, repurposing your sermon. When you first come into the software, the very first question that it's going to have for you is how do you want to bring your organization's content in to begin repurposing it? If you click Upload Video, you'll get a ton of options on how to bring that content in. You can do everything from drag and drop a file from the computer you're working on, to setting Sermon Shots as an endpoint for your live stream. Just like you would YouTube or Facebook, you will set Sermon Shots as your endpoint, and when you go live, your content will automatically stream into your account and be waiting for you when you come in. This is usually available between 15 and 30 minutes after your service concludes. If your content is already hosted on another service like YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, Dropbox, Google Drive, or Streaming Church TV, you can just give us the URL and we will go scrape that content and bring it directly into Sermon Shots for you to work with. Usually takes roughly about 10% the length of the video you're uploading for that process to complete, including your transcription and all of your repurposing documents, as well as your suggested clips. Regardless of how you choose to import your content, you'll end up with a thumbnail down below, and then you can click on any of your videos to work with, and it's going to pop open a bunch of options for you. I'll actually click through the clips last because there's a couple steps to those, whereas all of the repurposing documents are already present when you do an upload. These are content items that Sermon Shots automatically produces. You don't have to do anything to make them happen. So I'll start at the bottom with the summaries. We provide a short summary, a long summary, a YouTube summary, which might be my favorite because it comes with built-in tag words. I just copy those into the tag section of my YouTube upload each week. And then there's also a social media teaser with applicable hashtags. All of these content repurposing items can be downloaded. They are fully editable by you. Sermon Shots also isolates the audio from your upload for easy podcasting. This is a WAV file, and if you have never podcasted before and you've got curiosity about how to do that, there are instructions below your file for Apple, for Spotify, for embedding in websites. Sermon Shots produces an SEO-optimized blog post version of your message. This is great for putting up on your website. It's new content, so all of the browsers are going to crawl that, keeping you high in the search results. It's also excellent for visitors who are looking to find out what kind of preaching your church shares. And at the bottom of it, there are these challenges and practical steps that are great for helping you to disciple your current congregation. Sermon Shots produces a transcription of your upload. This is the entirety of your upload. It is word for word and it's time-stamped, so if you're doing TV or radio, it's really easy to find your spot. Underneath of our discipleship content, we have a 5-day devotional. This is going to break your message up into smaller, daily digestible chunks associated with a supportive scripture, a reflection or journaling type question, a quote, and a prayer. There are a lot of options for this, including Sermon Send, which you can tie directly to your Sermon Shots account. I'll cover that just a little bit later, so stand by for that. In the meantime, we also return to you a discussion guide. And even if you do go ahead and upload the entirety of your service that might contain a time of music, a time of kids ministry, communion, announcements, this is going to target the message portion of your upload and return to you a summary, an intro prayer, an icebreaker, the scriptures that you're going to need to support the discussion questions, and then kind of a setup for your next conversation and a closing prayer. This is excellent to provide to your small group leads. This lets them lead class on the basis of the sermon without anyone on your staff necessarily needing to create a separate curriculum. We return quotes and verses. These are standalone text. They can be copied and placed anywhere. Also, at the very bottom of this is all of the verses that were used in your sermon, not just the ones you need for the discussion guide. If you do want to turn one of these quotes into an image, Sermon Shots has an image generator built in. You can make a quick quote for your newsfeed, or you can also make a YouTube thumbnail. We have a multitude of templates. Pick a quote. We help you cut out a snapshot of your speaker for a dynamic look to your graphic. The whole thing finishes into a finished PNG or JPEG. Takes about 90 seconds. And that brings me to the sermon clips themselves. So for the clips, you are going to click on the addition sign to make a new one. This launches you into step 1. Step 1 is where all of the art lives. What do you want your TikTok or your reel or your YouTube short or your story to look like when you're done? Our design team has added over 1,000 of these items. They add new ones regularly, and they are fully customizable. So if you see something you like, but you would change something about it, colors, fonts, logos, scaling, placement, all of that can be changed by you. Drag and drop in step 3. I'll show you a little bit of that when we get there. In an effort to not have you dig through 1,000 templates each week, you can apply some filters to this library. I typically start with the format that I'm going to post in. This week I've been building some TikToks, so I've been working specifically in the vertical filters. Then we also have tags to shrink that library down. For example, perhaps your sanctuary video this week was not quite the quality you were hoping for. Come down into the tags and click audio only. We have several really gorgeous video clips that your sermon message will go on top of. No one has to know that the sanctuary video wasn't quite what you were hoping for. If you have a single fixed camera at the back, we have several wide shot templates for you where that particular aesthetic is so purposeful in the design. And if you do have a speaker that likes to move substantially, don't worry, I'll show you in step 3 that we have facial tracking built in. If you have a more conservative or traditional body, or maybe an ornate altar that you don't want to distract from, grab one of the plain templates. These typically contain only your logo and the captions. And if you are building for maybe a youth event or a celebration event, come in and grab one of the heavy graphics. Lots of movement, lots of color. And also, if you do find a template that you care for, you can click the star on it to add it to your favorites, because this tag will reduce down to only those templates you have saved off. That way you don't have to go looking every single week. But whether you filter or favorites or not, you still just click on the art you want and use the next button to move into step 2. Step 2 is where the transcription lives. Every word of the video that you upload is transcribed, and then Sermon Shot shows it back to you in essentially a document you can interact with here in the middle panel. And that transcription is 99% accurate, but if something does go sideways for you, the entirety of it can be edited with a double click. Click on whatever you need to, change out the spelling or the capitalization, and it will automatically save. If you have preferences about how things display, we absolutely invite you to make those changes in your transcription. Maybe you want to put quotation marks around scripture, or maybe you want to capitalize the pronouns when Jesus is referred to as he, him, himself, his. Totally up to you. We do remove some of the verbal tics that speakers tend to suffer from, things like or if they get hung up and repeat themselves. And Sermon Shots will automatically strip that out of your transcript, and it won't display in your captioning. The captions are also drag and drop, so if you need to split them differently, you can. This is especially useful if there's something that you want to emphasize or de-emphasize. For your actual clip build, you have a few options. First thing on the left are our AI suggested clips. This is again something that Sermon Shots automatically provides. Depending on the length of the video that you upload, you'll see anywhere between 5 to 15 of these suggested clips. If you opt to click on any of them, we then automatically select all the corresponding captions from your transcript to build out your clip. The duration is tracked at the bottom. Right now, this selection is 40 seconds long. With the suggested clips, you are going to retain control. So if you want to go through our suggestion and you want to take sentences out of it, or perhaps you want to end the thought differently, you can still do that. The suggestions are just a jumping off point. If there's nothing that quite hits your goal, you don't have to use any of those. You can always build your clips on your own. And there's several ways to do that. First way I can suggest is from a timestamp. Use the video scroll to choose a time, minute and second. The transcript will jump and meet you wherever you stop, so you can visually see what's being talked about there. If you don't have a timestamp, your brain doesn't do that, or maybe you have done a video trim before you edited and your timestamp isn't authentic anymore, we also have a couple of searches built in. We have an exact word or phrase search at the top of the transcript. Anything you type into there, Sermon Shots is going to scan through your upload, and it's going to tell you how many times we found that result, and then it's going to jump in the transcript to the first result, as well as in the video to the corresponding timestamp. In this case, there's more than one, so the down arrow is live, and clicking that will take you through the other pairings. So this is result 2 of my search, along with its corresponding timestamp. If you don't have an exact word or phrase, but you remember an idea, we also have a smart search built in. This is more topical or conceptual. You can type in something like grieving, and Sermon Shots is going to return to you the 10 closest examples within the sermon. They might contain words like mourning or crying or sadness, not necessarily grief or grieving. Either way, once you have found the spot in the video that you want to begin clipping, you're responsible for clicking the addition signs. Whatever caption boxes you click off are being added to your build, video and audio. Current duration of my build is 14 seconds. And we also wanted to mention that your builds don't have to be concurrent in Sermon Shots. So if you have a speaker who likes to insert a long illustration in the middle of their main point that's too much to include in your clip length, or if you're just trying to build a summary, a few sentences here and there to splice together a highlight reel of the sermon, or if you do have a speaker who misspeaks and you want to exclude that from your clip, feel free to skip whatever sentences you want and then add a few more, because Sermon Shots will splice it for you. I'm up to 20 seconds, and the section between may be forgiven to we've taken communion that's not highlighted in red will not be included in the clip, neither the audio nor the video. If you get a little bit lost and you're not quite sure what you have selected anymore, just click Clear Selections. It'll reset the entirety of the transcript so you can try again. Whether you choose a suggested clip and make edits, a timestamp, a keyword search, a smart search, you will end up with some captions selected from your transcript, and you're going to take those with you into the last step with this final next button. The longest clip you can build in Sermon Shots is 2.5 minutes, but you may find that your community responds best to shorter pieces, somewhere between 10 and 30 seconds. Here in step 3, we have the compile. Initially, you're going to have a return of a low-res preview. This doesn't stop you from making any edits. You can begin editing straight away. But what I typically do is I wait for the high-res to render, and then I watch that back. What you can expect to see here is the clipping from your larger upload. So you take your entire sermon into Sermon Shots, select a piece of it. We take that piece of video, place it onto the art that you selected in step 1, and then overlay the captions from step 2. And then here in step 3, give you that preview to watch back. So without changing anything, this is what I've got so far.
When we allow the church to become what the church was designed to become, because the whole world changed after Pentecost. The whole world changed because of the influence that those Christians who...
Okay, this speaker loves to connect with his audience by moving. And so here in Sermon Shots, we are going to use a feature down here on the left called AI Camera Crew. Camera Crew is facial tracking. So we're going to go ahead and boot up that feature. It will process through this clip and lock onto the speaker, keeping him centered even when he moves, so that you don't ever end up with this look where you have half a speaker or no speaker and sound coming from the side. You may not require AI Camera Crew for all of your clips, as some folks are a little bit more stationary while they speak, but you don't have to wait for this to finish if you want to continue editing. It will work while you work, and you'll get a pop-up in the bottom right. So I'm going to let that roll while we make a few other edits. If you like the moment you chose but not the look, choose a new template. Step 1 will relaunch here. As many times as you click on one of these, the template will swap over live here in step 3. There is no need to go back. For churches who already have branding in place, things like colors and fonts and logos, there's a spot in your account settings where you only need to give that information to us one time, and then you'll interact with it here. This color palette is the default for this design, but if you click on it, the color picker and the hex codes are both live, and the tiles down here are being pulled from this account's brand kit settings, so you can make anything in the template any color you care to. It's the exact same thing with the fonts. All of the templates have associated default fonts, but your branding fonts will be at the top, and you can always add more without going back. And most of Microsoft and Google is already preloaded into the font picker. Additionally, we do not watermark the templates. You will not see our logo, you will not see our slogan. The only branding on each one of your clip builds will be yours. And speaking of, we automatically display your logo on all of your builds, though you can turn it off if you don't care for it. And if you are building something for a different part of your organization and need to bring in a different logo, just click on the art that's showing. You'll get a file prompt. PNG, JPEG, both acceptable. If you have a logo that supports transparency, we highly encourage the PNG version. While I was chatting, camera crew popped, so this will be the same moment, but it's going to follow this speaker around now.
When we allowed the church to become what the church was designed to become. Because the whole world changed after Pentecost. The whole world changed because of the influence that those Christians who placed their faith in Jesus had in the world. And it should be the same thing today.
Thanks, camera crew. That's really helpful. I noticed that his praise team is up on the stage already, even though we can't see them. So I won't do it for this one. But music is also built into Sermon Shots. You can upload your own music, or we provide a huge library of copyright-free music. Either way, you get a volume slider so you can determine how much volume you want on the music you're adding. And if you do watch back the preview and you change your mind, just come back in and you are going to click on that selections title. It'll come right off. We also have previews built in. So if the clip you're building is for a particular platform and you want to know if any of their tooltips or their buttons are going to cover up your design, flip on that preview. In example, this is what TikTok would cover. This is what YouTube would cover, Instagram, and Facebook. If you notice that something in your design does need to move, everything about this template is drag and drop. Click on whatever you want to access, and you're able to move, delete, change the color, the transparency. You can also adjust every layer in the template, restack, turn them on and off. You don't have to do any of these things, but they are available to you, and nothing is gatekept. All of these things can be changed by you, drag and drop. That even includes the zoom on the speaker. How close would you like that speaker to be? By default, Sermon Shots clips end in a slow fade to black. If you don't care for that, it can be turned off, and your clip will hard cut wherever you stopped captioning. Additionally, as I mentioned in step 1, if you have developed your own templates, if you have a sermon series graphic, or maybe you just have a small group that you build clips for every week and they have particular art, you can upload any image into your account and you're able to insert that into your design and manipulate it like the remainder of our elements. You are not restricted to only the things that we have initially included with your account. All of those uploads stay in your account unless you delete them, so you can easily insert them every single week. We have all the standard editing options for your captions, including different fonts, formats, colors, alignment, animations. You can also turn those captions off entirely if you don't require them. Additional text elements are available. You get the standard editing bar for all of those, and they can also be removed just as easily. As you're making changes to your clip, you can continue to hit play, making sure that you're getting closer and closer to your desired finished product. If you want to keep a copy of a project in your account, you're going to click Save Changes, and you'll be prompted for a project name. Those drafts and finished projects will be listed underneath each one of your sermon thumbnails at the beginning of the Sermon Shot suite. When you are all satisfied with your clip, your download is going to have two options for you. Both of these files are MP4s. It's just a matter of how much file you require for your particular project. In most cases, you're going to want to use the HD version of the file. However, there are some social schedulers such as Hootsuite, Buffer, Later, Vista Social. Some of those schedulers require a slightly smaller size file to build out your posting calendar, and that's when you'll want to use that version of the file. There is no queue, there is no email when it's ready, you just immediately get your MP4. And if you do need this exact same moment in a different look, maybe you want to try a different template for some A/B testing, or maybe you need it in a different format, like a square format for a different platform, you can still swap out the template.
When we allow the church to become what the church.
And as you can see, Sermon Shots quick loads all of the builds you've already made, and you can download a second MP4 without doing the work twice. I am back at the home page now, so I am going to click on that sermon again and show you that I've got drafts and finals that I have saved. Additionally, all of this repurposed content can be shown quickly and easily to your congregation through the other side of our suite called Sermon Send. Sermon Shots is where you're going to develop all of that content, and Sermon Send is where you're going to share it with your congregation. Anytime you do an upload into Sermon Shots, if your accounts are tied together in the settings, you'll have the ability to turn on a toggle to link Sermon Shots to Sermon Send. We will automatically generate a page of all of that content for you, and they'll be listed with the details of the dates. You can always unpublish them, edit them, delete them entirely, or gather the link for your congregation. Anything that you click on is going to launch into that particular sermon's page. You can see its title, the dates we are displaying those devotionals, thumbnails, colors, typography, a description, and we will cover this in a different video. If you are interested in using all of the Sermon Shots content for Sermon Send. Thanks for joining me today.